Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's Fateless podcast episode. Joining me from the team, we have got Simon and Paul, and then a brand new guest joining the podcast. Also in the Fateless team, we've got Ygor. So, Ygor, I'll toss it over to you and just kind of introduce yourself and let people know a little bit about you, your gaming history, and kind of your work history in gaming and all that good stuff.
Cool. Hey, I am Igor Dreyer. I am from Brazil, and I've been working in the gaming industry for I think 8 years, but I've been coding for so many more years. Basically, I worked in I worked in web development, data science, and a bunch of other things. And then I saw that okay, I don't want to keep working with this. I want to keep go and use this knowledge on games. And I spent like 1 year just studying games and in the sense of how can I convert everything that I know here in games. And after that, I went to the gaming industry. Yeah, I did I worked in console games. I did a bunch of Switch, Xbox, PlayStation stuff. And slowly but surely, I was focusing more on mobile, then more in the management side, and now here I am, technical director of Fateless Games. Yeah.
Awesome. And
Awesome.
you like a World of Warcraft guy or RTS or Fortnite? What was your main come up in gaming?
Actually, I am not a regular one. I try to don't play that much multiplayer games. I have a release schedule of games coming out, and I play basically every single thing that interests me that is single player. Like I forcefully ignore multiplayer games that are time sinks. I play them, but I don't put like thousands of hours on them because I there are so many great 10 hours experience that sometimes you don't do it because you don't have time, and I feel like they are worth it. So I'm very dedicated in like playing games because they are also like my career. So I study them a lot.
Awesome.
It's funny actually. That's like the complete opposite to me.
Yeah.
I want to play all these games that come out, but because I'm so dedicated on playing these multiplayer games, or like I played World of Warcraft, I played FPS games like Counter Strike and um, Raven Shield back in the day, and then other games like I don't know League of Legends. Like when I play a game, I literally put hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into that game. And other stuff comes along. I'll probably buy the other games, by the way. I'm buying all these games, but I'll probably play them for like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm just like, and I'm back to my regular crew game. So, um,
Yeah.
yes, it's funny.
And it's
What's
not
your
like
favorite
that.
though, Edo? If you had to call out your favorite, I don't know, 2 or 3 games you've ever played, what would they be?
Oh, for sure. Death Stranding is my favorite, all-time favorite. The first Death Stranding when it came out blew my mind. Besides that is the Silent Hill franchise, and the third place is always like so hard because then there's everything left. But probably I don't know Final Fantasy franchise or something like that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I know you've done a bit of streaming in the past, which I only found this out recently. Um, But what type of games were you streaming, or what type of stuff were you doing there?
I was a speedrunner. I was a maniac, basically. I don't know how, but I use it to do Dark Souls speedruns. I
Right.
did Dark Souls remastered speedruns and Dark Souls 2 speedruns. I did it for about 6 months. And right after that ended, is when I joined the gaming industry. That was exactly my transition point from
Ah, cool.
regular coder. Then I had this brief period there, and then I went into the gaming industry afterwards.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Igor has been around literally since we started the project. So it's a really interesting take because we've seen, I guess, the Godforge project, I guess, just evolve over the last couple of years, and we've recently just launched the alpha, which was just like a huge milestone for us. We've had different milestones along the way, but the alpha has obviously been the biggest one yet. We've had thousands of players joining the game, testing different mechanics out, and different systems. So I guess we should just do a bit of a roundup first, like Igor from a developer point of view, Brad and Paul from the sort of more design side. What's your thoughts on I guess, how successful the alpha's been, and obviously seeing some of the feedback come in. How are you feeling about the sort of community reaction? I guess let's kick it over to you first, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I had very, very clear goals from my high level, which was, did the actual plan that we have for the entirety of the game? Because obviously it's the first time players have had an opportunity to, spend a long time in front of it. Like they've seen videos, we've dropped little snippets, we've dropped little bits of, showcases, but it's the first time you give it to someone and say, hey, go have fun with it. So obviously that is a big part of it. Did we actually deliver like the concept that we came up with all these months and planning all these different game modes and long developer meetings and hours about what it should do and reviews and sessions? Does it all translate into it's a good game to play? And that, I think, has been the most successful outcome we've had of the testing. I hope is most people have said, bugs aside, little tricks in the trade. And I will say it's the best QA you can ever have when you put the game in front of 5,000 people and they find all sorts of wondrous little ways to break it. The one particular instant where both myself and Ygor, and I think Marcelo from the team as well, we probably spent, I don't know, 40 hours probably combined trying to go, how the heck did this one person figure out how to do this in this particular way? So it's been really successful, not just from a, we've solved bugs, we found different issues, but also from, hey, it looks like we've struck the balance, right? We've managed to find a good kind of experience for players, and players like what we designed. So the design is now showing that the concept worked. It's a nice validation thing from a design perspective, right? The design concept that we come up with many, many months and years ago, almost like over a year ago now, those heroes are coming into the game and players are playing them how we intended, sometimes how we didn't intend, but mostly how we intended, and they're working and they're enjoying them. That's like really, really satisfying to see.
Yeah, what's your take, Ygor? So I guess for me, this is the first game that I've been involved with, certainly at this stage. And I've seen games come out. Obviously, I've seen games at this stage, but the first one where I'm on the other side of the fence, and we're eager to see feedback. But you've been in this place a number of times, so how's it felt for you?
I was thinking about when you on Matrix the movie, getting this reference that a lot of people see the guy with a lot of numbers, and he is like outside the Matrix, but looking at the Matrix, and he knows that there's those numbers, and he says, "No, I don't see numbers anymore." Like when you guys were super excited,
yes, exactly
people
the
screaming.
reference.
I was actually looking at the API calls on PlayFab and the log server and seeing those huge spikes, and I was like super excited seeing that. Because I like to say that compliments and feedback don't tell as much through as hours that you put there.
Sure.
Like you can go there and compliment the game, but if you are there like putting dozens of hours and it's logging there, then I know that you are actually having a lot of fun. So checking that data was super fun. Yeah.
I actually just put a stat
Are you actually going
out.
to start dodging bullets now, Ygor? Are we saying you're Neo? Is this what you're going to do, right? You just be like there going, whoa.
No, I am the geek guy that was looking at the monitor. That's it.
Oh,
you're
you're the one
tank,
that's like
tank.
shoving it in
Yeah.
your head, right? The little spikes.
Exactly.
Paul, I'm proud of you. You get the Matrix references. Usually when we say things like Office Space or whatever, Paul's like, what? I've never seen it. I don't know.
That's because you guys come up with the most random American films that us Brits have absolutely no idea. The Matrix for us is like,
It's
that's
true.
like,
Matrix
that's
is
like,
the best film ever made. I think.
what do they call it? The noughties or whatever it is. Like, that's a classic from that era. They didn't need to make the fourth one, though. That fourth one was pointless. But anyway, we digress.
I was going to say, I just put out a stat actually to the community. This is going to go out after this, but over 45,000 hours played through the sort of about 5,000 players, which for a 10-day period is pretty insane.
Is that 5 hours per average? 4.5?
Yeah, one person played for 131 hours, or at least the game was running for 131 hours during the alpha. So that's almost
that is
half
not
of
good
the
sleep
time.
patterns. Whoever that person is, we need to educate you on like good 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Well, when we were setting all this up, we were like, what sort of time period do we think people might play? When we're setting out the difficulty, and it was kind of like, so the average player we thought might be an hour a day if they're like pretty committed to playing, and it was like the high end player maybe like 4 hours a day. There might be the extreme player that could do 8 hours a day, but they're going to be pretty rare. But actually, as There's more of them
Day
than we
one,
realize in
18
this group.
hours. Like,
Yeah.
Wait, Simon,
Yeah.
what was the total
Um,
hours?
So total hours 45,776.
Because that's like so it's about 9 hours per player, isn't it?
It's about 10 hours. Yeah, about 10 hours. Just under actually. Just under 10 hours per player. And bearing in mind, I'd say about 3,000 of those players, based on our data, played a decent amount. There's probably about 2,000 that played for a few hours, but not a ton of hours. So, anyway, Brad, I didn't ask you the same question. It'd be good to get back to your thoughts. You've sort of been designing a lot of the heroes and obviously seeing those interactions of teams and stuff. Has anything sort of caught your eye as, wow, I didn't expect that to happen? Or, what's your take on the
Yeah,
alpha?
it's been surreal from my end because, like I've been here from the beginning and you start like concepting heroes. And then for the first time, you're seeing like YouTube videos come out of reviewing a hero's kit and like,
Yeah.
oh, I built this team because of this synergy. And it's like, oh, wow, it's really cool to kind of see it come full circle. So that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I was trying to kind of similar to you, just play through like how a normal experience would be. I wasn't trying to, go crazy and do too much. And I wasn't trying to do too little. I was just trying to relate to like that middle ground. So I was able to
Yeah.
finish the tower and get through everything and had a lot of fun doing it. And one thing I was really worried about was how will people like the ultimate system in terms of being able to do it whenever you want instead of just being your turn? Because I was wondering if that would confuse people or kind of wreck the game, but it seems like people like that. So that
Yeah.
was encouraging. That was one thing I was worried about, but ended up kind of working out. So all in all, yeah, it was really fun alpha.
That's cool. So I really want to touch on the dev side since we've got Ygor in the room. Obviously, there's a lot of features that, firstly, we want to implement. Secondly, the community are already asking for. In fact, I've had a number of people ask me already today, what is Alpha 2 going to look like? Are we going to get a bunch of feature improvements? Are we going to get a load of quality of life stuff come in? And I guess it would just be good to just sort of walk through, I guess, what makes reasonable sense to do in these kind of like iterations of 10 days bug fixing, 10 days additional time versus I guess the expectation of what people want us to do. So Ygor, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, basically, as part of my role on the project, I am always the annoying guy. Like,
I feel like I'm
I
the annoying
need-
guy and you're the guy that has to say no.
yeah, I am the no guy. Even though like everyone wants these super cool features, I want those super cool features, but I'm the guy that says, yeah, guys. In order and giving the example of alpha, it's a perfect example. Like, in order for us to have a better and more complete launch, we need to decide, okay, what are going to be the priorities? What are we going to do on the alpha? And how much of that team, the time and team resources are going to spend on feedback on alpha? And how much are we going to actually allocate to the launch? And even if we did allocate a bunch of resources to alpha and feedback and improving this experience, there is a lot that we can't do easily, at least. And going over the example of, the user feedback requested this feature, and a bunch of them actually are already done, but they are done on a separate environment that is not easy to share because we are on a way advanced build on this environment. And the alpha build, for also known as stable builds for obvious reasons, is that place that is like conservative. We only do small touches, improvements, and we created this experience to get focal feedback from the player. And in the moment that we start touching too much, we are going to start like mixing up data and maybe adding things that are going to touch that experience the way that we don't want. So yeah, it's that's why like I need to be the no guy. I am the guy that says, okay, this one is one step too further in this moment. We want it, we are going to do, but not right now. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what we want to make sure we do for Alpha 2 at least is make sure that critical bugs, which are just like ruining gameplay experience, we try and squash those as best we can so that we haven't got these heroes probably the ones that Paul implemented, where they're unkillable, Paul, like a Hercules, or
That's not
waves
me.
where the enemies just attack
I'm
themselves.
innocent. I don't know what you're talking about.
But all the stuff really where it felt like, I just can't really play the game as it was meant to be played because of frustrating bugs. So we're trying to make sure those go away. We're trying to make sure that our end boss actually feels like a boss and can't just be kind of like tickled to death. And then really there's a couple of features which we were already working on, which we're going to try and get in, which just I guess were necessary quality of life things, and actually things which were already on the cards and being worked on, and probably we could have tried to squeeze in to Alpha 1, but we didn't want to sort of ruin the stability of the build. So it's not going to be like a completely different game, but I think there's going to be enough changes that it will feel like a much just smoother experience. I don't know, Paul, if you want to talk to some of the work that's being done from your side.
Yeah, actually, I have prepared what I would say actually is Godforge first official rebalance patch.
Patch notes. Yeah.
Somewhat. Everyone's used to me doing raid patch notes. It's going to be a different type one. It's a bit like what you were saying, where the advantage, like I said before, of having 5,000 players play it for 45,000 hours is it's the best form of QA. In an alpha, we don't have the pressure of making sure things go out the door absolutely perfect, because we know that there are going to be issues, because half of the systems are also in development, as in we know that we would love to have filtering for characters. It's a big pain point. You can't figure out what a Slayer is in the roster. We know this. We've got it ready. We know it's going to get planned. So, it's the best form of finding different things. Today, I actually found a situation where we had not thought about the ability to permanently increase the duration of disables and buffs and lock cores. So the clever people in the community have been figuring out how to do crazy little things like protect buffs, permanently healing your team. And so it's a lot of those little, we're not necessarily killing all the fun, but we're kind of going, probably that's really stupidly OP. We should probably stop doing that. Those things are going to get kind of chopped down. We're also kind of tackling some of the egregiously bad opponents to fight. For some reason, Mummy continues to be the bane of our existence. It's an internal joke. Nobody's probably going to get this, but turns out Mummy's core ability was the strongest core ability in the game. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
It's literally the hardest hitting ability in the entire game. And I was like, maybe we should do something about mummies. So there'll be lots of little damage number modifications to bring people where they should be. We had a couple of champions, a couple of heroes that were basically, not doing the outcome that they were meant to, or not bug fixes for Dracula and a bunch of those sorts of things. But the other big thing I think that will probably be the most different experience is going to be how people approach the waves, because we didn't really put Axiom resistance in this Alpha 1 wave. So that's going to be the biggest change probably for Alpha 2, is the enemies now are going to be doing a lot more debuffs to you, and you're going to have to be putting accuracy in to put debuffs back on them, and you're going to have to start thinking a bit more. So I'm really excited to see that evolution. And yes, Fafnir has been his immunity to divinity reduction. We've got a clever fix, and I think it's part one of the fix. We're not completely blocking it. That's one of the things we always have a philosophy here, is we don't want to just say all these bunch of heroes are useless against Fafnir. But, the Amino, whatever the name of the weapon is, which I keep struggling to say, is going to be not so good in Alpha 2. It's a little sneak ahead for there. So, but, we've got to make that Fafnir boss the scary man, the scary dragon he's meant to be. So,
yeah. And I guess maybe I'll throw this one to you, Brad. It's interesting, as we've said, I've seen feedback around certain heroes where people say, oh, this one doesn't feel like it's as strong as I would like it to be, or something like a rare, like a Skadi feels really strong. But I guess you're not just planning content for Alpha. Obviously, we're going to have a ton of different variety of challenges and team comps and all that type of stuff that are required for the rest of the game. So I don't know. I guess just talk to that a little bit, because I know we've got way more than 67 heroes on launch, and we had to choose a selection of ones which were ready, basically, with things like VFX and stuff like that. But yeah, perhaps just talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, that is the hard part, because the alpha is only showcasing, probably 10 to 20% of the game that's going to be out on launch, in terms of all the different areas to bring heroes and the different situations we're going to be having optimal teams ready to be built and all that. So we're getting some feedback on maybe like this legendary feels underwhelming, but maybe that legendary is going to be amazing in PvP. And we don't have any of those like arena PvP type systems in place. So, there is going to be an avenue for us to balance the game in order to make all of these heroes feel like they have a place. And it's hard to showcase that in an alpha where you've got limited areas and limited enemies to go against, limited boss fights, and you can't really dive into all the different aspects of the game that we want to implement when we do hit the live launch of the game. But yeah, there are definitely, like Paul said, there are some that we do want to balance at least a little bit. We had some that were way overperforming or way underperforming, and we'll try to tune that up a little bit here at least before we head into the future alpha waves to at least try to get a little bit better representation.
Yeah, cool.
It's a real challenge, right? Because there's always a risk, and I'm like Ygor says he's the annoying one in the development team. I'm the annoying one in the design team because everyone will come to me and say we need to change this hero, and I'm like, well, let's just be a bit careful here. Let's take it a moment.
I teach you well, Padawan.
I know, yeah, like because the biggest challenge you've got is like designing a hero in isolation when you have like we're gonna have hundreds of heroes in the game. So right now, your players are only seeing a fraction of was it about 1/3? I can't
A
really do
third,
maths
basically,
today.
from what
So
we're
about a
aiming to
third.
launch with. Yeah.
Somewhere
So
around there, yeah.
effectively, we're only showing you a third of the hero roster, and some of those heroes are very like powerful because they happen to be one of the ones we designed first and we worked on first, and they were the first out of the sort of the treadmill of heroes that come out, right? The production cycle that we have. But the newer heroes that we have coming through as well, like there's so many different types of heroes. So there's always a risk when you're doing any sort of like reactive or reflective design where you feel like in this moment in time, this character, this hero doesn't feel good. But then you're not looking at it against the whole roster to go, well, maybe the ones that you are seeing are real good are eternal legendaries, which, they're not meant to be something you get at level 30, even within 30 minutes. There's something you might get if you're lucky, but the scarcity will be a factor as to some of the power, right? Some of the legendary heroes here, we've built them in a way that we know they're more powerful because they're more scarce. So therefore, you're not going to easily get the full unlock and lots of different experiences like that. So it's very difficult when you have an alpha experience. You have so many excited players and so many excited team members that want their heroes, because some of them are, your own heroes that you've designed to be the best in the game. But there's always a balance. Like I'm looking at it on the high level going, well, where does this character fit in amongst all of the roster? Because, if everyone is powerful, nobody is powerful.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Challenging.
It's boring if everyone's just got this crazy power. And even when, so I'm one of the people, by the way, I got at level 30 Odin, and I felt like it was very underwhelming for this kind of like eternal legendary. But then he's not a slayer. So it means he's not meant to be a damage dealer class. He's actually a disruptor, which means he's meant to have crowd control. And, but through my eyes, I'm like, he's Odin. He's just going to obliterate the enemies. And obviously he doesn't do that. So again, it's making sure that we play to the archetypes that we've got in the game as well, and making sure that becomes part of the design decision rather than just can everybody one-shot the entire wave, like I saw Hercules doing towards the end.
Right.
see builds of Hercules where they literally just one-shotting everybody with the A1.
That's the hard part of like an ultra progression alpha experience where everybody's trying to like max out in a week, is because obviously, when you play these games, the strongest thing you're going to want is I need DPS, damage, kill things fast, progress. And so anybody that's not like slapping hard and doing tons of damage isn't going to kind of fill that role in the first few days when you're trying to progress as fast as possible. Whereas someone like Odin is probably amazing in a more like min-maxed team for a specific situation, but maybe not when you're level 20 and you're just trying to kind of kill stuff as fast as possible.
My hot take on this actually is I'm just happy to see any hero. The reason is that I've been working with Musashi and Brazilian Archer, only those two, since 2023. I started with those two in December 2023, and I have hundreds of hours just looking at Musashi and Brazilian Archer, non-stop, just to them. Like I can't take them no more. Give me mommy, give me anything.
This was what was fun, right? So, we've, like you say, Ygor, we've been in the sort of test realm, pretty much fighting waves of Musashi non-stop. To actually see these combinations of enemy waves that you guys have pulled together, and to see like all of that stuff start to interact, It's actually really fun. It's really, I think,
Yeah, super fun.
back to the original point, did we find the fun? I'm glad that a lot of people in the community actually, the players were like, yeah, well, we think you did. And that's because I found myself, I was cruising to like maybe level 60. Then I started to have to just come off auto sometimes. So it's like, actually, I'm just going to let a couple of core abilities go. Then I'm going to stop, come off auto, do some manual hits, make sure that I'm saving some ults for the next big wave, because I know the next big wave's the ISIS or something. And like that type of gameplay is fun. Like you suddenly, it's like you're having to make decisions. And for so long, we've just made the decisions around Musashi coming out as super quick for a while.
It's funny. I remember the
yeah.
caverns for a very long time in internal testing. We basically were all testing on like one of the campaign stages, and every wave it was like mummies this, mummies that, mummies this. When I set up the cavern
Always.
placeholder, I was like, I don't think I can let the dev team deal with mummies anymore, so I just put Aphrodite everywhere. And everyone's like, why is Aphrodite? I just couldn't do mummies. Like we had mummy quake incidents and different bugs along the process. Is like, why is mummy shaking the screen so much like an earthquake? And it was it was borderline like I don't think I could put anyone through mummy terror anymore. So, and the other interesting thing I was going to say, like Odin, for example, one of the things I think, one of the most, I suppose, non-obvious bugs, but one actually quite an impacting bug, was our ability upgrade system wasn't actually reducing cooldowns, and a lot of the feeling of progression and feeling of damage often comes with, well, he doesn't do an AoE A1, but he does on the A2 on his core. Using raid terms, on his basic, on his core. It turns out that he actually had a 5-turn cooldown. So probably why he in particular felt really weak as well in damage is because, well, it's such a long period of time before you get back to that core. But actually, when you look at the math and numbers, his core was actually kind of slightly overtuned, if anything. I actually had to bring it back off the brink. His core damage is really high, but the problem is, of course, you're looking at it like, well, I got this guy over here, he's doing it on a 3 or a 4-turn cooldown, or this guy's doing it on a basic ability. This guy have to wait an age, almost to the point where you're never getting it back more than once in battle, because it's designed to be, we built the system, you're meant to upgrade the abilities. So, those little things, I think, because he was a legendary, he got coded up 1 too high, it should be 1 too low. So sometimes it's never just about, that's the challenge that we have in game dev over here, is like assessing the problem that someone has and trying to find the solution that actually solves the original problem. Because sometimes what you see isn't what you always want to solve. It could be like there's a hidden problem beneath it that is actually making it. So like this hero alone might be okay, but when you put it with something else is when it becomes unbearable or doesn't work.
Sure. Yeah.
So
well,
that's a fun part.
On top of all of that, we always need to think, is this a fundamental problem? Like, is this a design problem, or something's not working right yet? Like, there is always the chance that everything is correct, but there is a tiny small bug like this cooldown there that was like, the design was perfect, but not perfect, okay, but the system has an actual bug. So a lot of times, first you need to analyze is, okay, the design needs to change, maybe not, and then in fact it was a code problem. So there's always this balance. And we have to do triages, and then we need to go there and see, okay, first we assign to the design team. If the design says, no, this is correct, then we goes to the dev team for us to actually fix the problem. It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well,
Mordred was a good one, right? Mordred was a good one.
Mordred was crazy, yeah.
When we first put Mordred in on the Friends and Family build, everyone's like, Mordred is insanely overpowered. And it turns out it wasn't actually Mordred. It was more the confuse effect that he does. So it's like the secondary thing balanced out the first thing. We didn't actually need to change Mordred in the end. We were just like, oh, what he's doing is actually the problem, not himself. So it's a multi-pronged effort, and having lots of people figure it out and test it is a challenge. So and then you also get to the fun little bugs we had, which is Percival, where Percival for some reason wouldn't do damage. Percival was a nightmare. Me and Marcella spent about an hour on this Percival. It's like, it makes no sense. Why is it the first hit he does no damage, the second hit he does? And it turns out there was a secret little code thing within his passive that just basically made damage null.
Right.
Hidden away. And we were like, let's just remake it. So it's the pain of bug fixing, but the most valuable part is we actually probably fix more bugs by one bug fix, because we get to figure out what's going wrong, which is
understand
really
the actual like key reason. Yeah. Well, I wanted to move on quickly before the end of today. I wanted to talk about MVP for launching a game. So we've got this kind of like, I guess, laundry list of really cool features that we want to bring in to really kind of like innovate in this genre. And, we sort of put them to you, Ygor, and you were like, guys, it's impossible to get all these things in if we want to release, with any reasonable amount of time, right? So I just, perhaps just touch on what does MVP mean in gaming, and then, I guess, what does it mean for us as well?
Okay. So I think it's cool to give a perspective, because as a player, you don't always see this, but sometimes time flows differently on game development. Like sometimes something super important takes 10 days, and a tiny feature, like a tiny thingy there, takes a month. And that is basically what MVP does. What MVP is the minimum viable product. The idea of that is get and read and understand the core principles of each the design, and evaluate like which one of those takes the least amount of time to do and brings the highest value. Because there are some things there that are super cool, but they adds very little in comparison to the core feature. Like some example that we can think, like I'm thinking like, oh, we have guild system, and then I have an even better one. When you go there and there PvP on any game, and something that looks like super simple, that you see, oh, the combat history, the past enemies you fought. Oh, that's super simple. Like the complex part is the battle, and in fact, it's not, because you need to create a complex record in a different form of what happened on that battle. Like for the player, it's literally just a snippet of what happened, but for us, it's something so large, so much bigger than it looks. And I'm using this as an example to what an MVP is. Like we need to make some decisions on how to give the best to the player, but in the minimal amount of time. So that's
just like moving on top of that, because what do we want from PvP? So obviously we're going to have a base PvP system, which would be our MVP. But actually, in terms of what we want from a team, we'd love for us to be able to duel against other people in our pantheons or on our friends list or stuff like that. We'd also love to be able to share that duel in our chats and have people be able to replay it. You know what? We'd also love for people to be able to watch that duel live, right? So you do all these different layers of complexity that we want. Now, for our sort of soft launch of the game, chances are we're just going to have the PvP system. But actually, as we start to release feature improvement over time, it's like, okay, well, now we can do the dueling. And it's like, okay, and now you guys can watch it back. And by the way, and on this release, now you guys can actually watch it live. And it's that kind of like step-by-step process. Because if we waited until we had and you can watch it live part, then it might actually add, and we're doing that for every feature we're trying to release. Suddenly you might add a year or 2 years onto development time, and a lot of the things we're trying to release suddenly are just so out of date that it's probably not worth releasing the game anyway, or we've run out of money, and everyone's just like, well, we're another one of these games that never launched.
And this is super common in the sense that we decide to go like in a super in-depth feature until the end, and then when it launches, because you didn't test it, you didn't release the MVP, it turns out the players don't like it. Like I'm not. Don't think it in a PvP that is something more standard. Think it like a new feature. If you don't release this new feature when it's like brand new and has the MVP, we can go super deep, and in the end, if it has the player, they don't like it. Like, so it's this is extremely common in games. Like there are games that takes like 7-8 years to be done, and when it's done, it's like fine. Sometimes it flops. It's like, that's why it's so valuable, and that's why it's so good that this game has a community from the beginning, because we can gather this feedback and improve upon it.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, Paul, like from your side, again, and Brad, I guess, and me, like when we're thinking about a feature, we do a kind of roundtable of that real deep dive. What do we want it to do? I guess how challenging is it to then say, well, what is MVP versus, for us, it's like, what is our minimum viable product that we want to put in front of a community here? Because the minimum would just be like the shell of a feature, right? But that's not necessarily where we're accepting. No, that won't necessarily be what we put out. So, yeah, I guess how do you kind of work through that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you obviously want to deliver the feature in the most complete state as possible. That's always the first goal, right? We hear a lot around. You probably heard the sentiment in general in gamers these days, where it's like, oh, development studios, they don't care anymore. They release half-finished games. They don't test it. It's buggy. It's terrible. And then you have to wait basically 3 DLCs before the game becomes good, right? No Man's Sky had this problem. It's a pretty good game now, but it needed another 2 years. It's very rare that you get like that Expedition 33 style type game where it's like it comes out, everyone loves it, it works, no problems, they don't need to rework it, there's no DLCs you're waiting for. And of course, that's different as well, again, to like more live service games like League of Legends and Fortnite, where actually they're just determining events more than anything else. Rather, the game is built, they don't need to evolve it too much, they just basically determine balancing and things. For us, like the goal is always to build the feature in the most complete sense. And then you kind of work your way backwards. But the challenge then becomes, okay, this is what we want the whole thing to do. Okay, now what do I need to make it happen? But what's the consequences of not having those secondary systems? Because you can kind of do, like, for example, we've already talked about one particular feature with our account systems where we're like, okay, well, we don't really need that. But then if you take that one thing away, it has sort of ripple effect where it goes, well, if that doesn't exist, this thing we designed over here now needs a consideration because this thing was meant
Yeah.
to feed that thing. And then it can make a bit of an economic and game feature balance nightmare because you go, okay, we're going to take this one thing because we don't need it to make the thing work, but we were giving something that would make the other thing make sense. And now that thing doesn't make sense. So that thing now needs a different source. And then you can go down a very deep rabbit hole of how do we make the game modes that we are going to have still feel good. So the challenge for us is kind of like, okay, let's map out that full feature and then go, okay, what is realistic? And then have Ygor shout at us for about like 2 days saying this is unrealistic, you need to reduce it. And then we have those really difficult conversations where we go, what's the minimum? And we
Yeah.
find like that good balance. But there is, to your point, there are always some things within a game system you simply just cannot go, we will deliver it. So, we talked about this for the alpha system. One of the main reasons why we didn't have pantheons, our social systems in the alpha, was simply that we couldn't get critical systems that basically made that thing worthwhile, communication systems and social systems. There's no point having a social system if you can't be social. So there's always a level of the MVP has to have some things, and some things that still is painful for us. So it's a challenge.
Yeah. Has there been anything, maybe I'll throw this to you, Brad, has there been anything which I guess we decided, okay, we're not going to put that through on soft launch because it doesn't really kind of like wrap into MVP, that you just kind of thought, damn, that just feels brutal to have to like strip back?
Yeah, I was just recently kind of working on some of the PvP stuff, and you already talked about probably half of it. But yeah, to me, it's just such a big deal to have people, with the capabilities of having like custom tournaments. Like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a HH Gaming, tournament. Let's get everybody in the clan, custom tournament, and then we can like stream it. We can up like just from my background of being a content creator, that stuff would be so fun. But I also don't want a game that comes out in 2030. So
Yeah,
like that's the really, you guys already kind of touched on some of it, but for me that type of stuff would be super cool. That when I'm kind of designing that system, I want it. But yeah, it just comes down to kind of what we can realistically get done, and because gamers also don't want to wait 5 years. So it's just finding that balance of what we can get out as soon as possible and as good as possible, and then have very robust live ops to bring this stuff to people.
And
Sure, just,
something
yeah, go on.
just to add something that is actually quite fun is that people also, people including me and ourselves sometimes don't realize how long something takes, because we know, like, usually a fraction of the process. Like, for example, even coding this functionality here, it takes like a day, and then, oh, it's a day, we can add it. But in the end, that day we need to generate builds. Then the builds need to be tested on all platforms. Then the QA reports, and then it comes. We have feedbacks. Then we have tweaks. Like even the minor things sometimes like takes 6-7 days of work because of all these other processes besides doing the feature itself. So it's like always not as simple as it looks when you are dealing with especially a live game that you need to do changes while people are playing the game.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things for me actually in terms of a learning through this process is like how far in advance we need to have a build basically locked down before we're due to release that build. And I kind of assumed, well, if we got Alpha 2 going live on the 13th of August, chances are we're probably working on all of the fixes and improvements and stuff. Anything we've got that's ready to go is going in, and that's probably going to carry on until the 11th of August, and then like a couple of days just to kind of ease off. But it's really not like that at all, is it? You almost have this kind of like feature lock period, or we call it pencils down then feature lock. But yeah, probably like a good week before we're due to launch the build, and then just like critical bug fixes, and then really a day or two before we're launching, like no touch at all, just play and make sure that there's nothing absolutely going to break the game.
And that is just because we are on alpha. Because if we were on actual launch, those periods are months. Like they become easily 1 or 2 months. The famous gold period, right? There are some games that are on gold period for 6 months, for example. That is like the game doesn't have anything else from that period besides bug fixing. The build is it's crazy how long the polishments take in comparison to the development of the features themselves.
Yeah, especially when we have 226 heroes, 13 bosses. I don't know if that number.
Oh my goodness, Paul's leaking the exact number.
Quick, cut it.
Edit it out, cut it.
When you're over 200 heroes, marketing experience over there. It's difficult because every hero has their own little skill set. So like you can put like 10 heroes in that all do like turn meter boost, and turn meter boost works great. And then the 11th hero goes in because it uses it in a different way. Now all of a sudden that is going to break it, and you go, now I need to double check that it doesn't have a negative effect on the other 10 heroes that I've already said is working great. So there's always like these little, every bit of complexity and every feature you add expands the scope of the game. And then of course, when you get to final release candidates and we start looking at like, okay, really pulling it in now to the stability, you start then having a bigger pile of work to be checking and validating and checking. And we're moving at such a breakneck pace now with the team that, every day there's potentially a new feature that we've added into the game that's really exciting. This test is going to make the game really better.
Yeah.
But you don't know what the consequences is going to be for 100 other systems.
This is one of the biggest challenges that I have. Like me and Sham are sitting there, we see features on the development build, and we're like, let's take gear filtering, right? So super simple feature. You would think it already works, right? We can already filter gear. We can already do a whole bunch of stuff in the development build. And we're like, let's just put it in the alpha. Why wouldn't we put it in? But
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
So what you're trying to say is you've never oversimplified a problem, right, Simon? Not once. Never said, how difficult could it be, guys? It's just a tooltip. Just add the tooltip into the game.
Just add it in. Just add it in.
What could possibly go wrong? It's like, let's just bring a whole list of features.
When this project began, I was like full of hair. My photos on this part, I was full of hair. And each time I heard, oh, it's just a day, do it, I lost one hair. And this is where I am now.
Yeah. It's brutal, man. It's brutal.
One thing I would want to ask you, Simon, just to kind of put a bow on everything as we kind of reach the end here, is being like a founder from the beginning of the project and now through the first alpha, would you say to the viewers and the community out there, do you feel like you or the Godforge project is kind of ahead of schedule in terms of where you thought it would be, or behind schedule, or is it kind of going exactly at the pace you kind of thought from the beginning?
Yeah, in terms of just time, it's later than I thought we would be. But in terms of the product, I think it's and the feedback that I had. I'll tell you just quickly. did a stream. So I streamed my start of the alpha pretty much when the alpha went live, a couple of hours after. And yeah, the viewers that we had on that stream had basically nearly 1,000 people watching me play the alpha, talking about the project. But I streamed for a good few hours. So, and it was just consistently loads of people in the stream, which honestly rivals some of my best streams I've ever had, over the last 6 years for viewership. So that shows the kind of like feeling behind the project, which is awesome. And I think, playtesting it, looking at the visuals, considering we're at alpha stage, I think we're massively ahead in terms of where, I pictured us to be. And, but yeah, in terms of just time, it's probably a little bit behind or probably a little bit behind, honestly. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to even like say how rewarding it is to get to this stage and to have, thousands of players playing the game. We've got a Discord full of people just kind of like feeding back saying, obviously they're reporting all the bugs and that stuff, but generally the feeling is like, wow, you guys are doing a great job. And, you're really hitting the mark in terms of finding the fun with this genre and like refreshing, a genre that's been out there for a long time with some really cool innovations. So, from that side, yeah, we're massively ahead.
I think the big thing
Awesome.
about it is we're gamers
Yeah.
more than we are professional game development studio stuff, right? So we're becoming that studio in evolution, and one of the big things about Fateless has always been that the community's coming with us, right? So it's been a bit of a learning curve across everyone that sort of started. The people that we brought on board have leveled up our own knowledge. So what we probably expected when we started on day one, we walked through the door and we're like, oh, this would be great. We're going to make a game. What's the worst that could happen? That learning is a big part of that. So you always make assumptions on day one about how difficult. I just make a few characters, chuck it in a game, make them hit each other, do some damage, kill a boss, get some loot, woohoo, go home. What's the difficult? It can't be that hard. But actually, then when you look at the machinations and the mechanics of different teams and having like different time zones, even for us is the fun part. Like you trying to arrange in a meeting and the Brits are awake at like 10 a.m., but that's like 2 a.m. for the people down in South America, and then we need someone from North America, and then we have someone around. Like we're a multinational team. We've got the best of the best we could possibly find around the world, and that makes challenges even just for planning. So I think, from my personal experience, at least, what I've learned the most is learning from people who, I have an understanding of how to code, but how to then implement a game in a coding fashion when you have like art requirements and game dev, and you have QA production and processes, and even simple things as
Then you
deliver
need
the
it to be
build.
fairly like optimized to actually run on devices and stuff like that. It's
Yeah. Well, we did break the phone, didn't we? Like,
And one thing that is the other side of the coin for me, it was an actual a big learning experience for me, is how different it is to develop a game with a community. Because I came from the exact opposite. I came from projects that we had NDAs. I couldn't even say the name out loud. It wasn't my contract. So my wife, she couldn't hear the name of the project. My SSD was
Right.
encrypted. Like it was crazy. Like we only could talk code names, and now it's like completely different. Like we can only say we need to share intentionally how things are, and give good presentations and feedback community. So it's completely different world that I was and now I am.
apparently
Yeah.
leaking the amount of heroes is part of that contract, right? Whoops.
Exactly.
I have heard I've heard a lot of
Leave that
people
out,
say as
Graham.
well, like, considering this is the first game we're building out of this studio, it's a big game. Like most people start with, kind of like
Yeah.
a game that might
Little
take
indie
3 to
game.
6 months. Yeah, small kind of like profile game, and we're just kind of like, no, we're going to build a game that we really want to play ourselves, and and make sure that it just it's got those features that we really want to play. So that adds challenges as well, right? Because we're not just looking to build something super simple. We're looking to build something pretty complex.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest, like if you think about it, we did an alpha with 67 heroes. Most games that come out these days launch with 67 heroes. So that's kind of a bit of a testament to the volume. We've already got modeled up and pipelined over 100 heroes. And like there's so much more that it's quite funny watching the community react to some of these heroes, because I'm obviously from a design lead perspective, my head is already into like post-launch hero drops and various different
Yeah.
things and concepting. So I'm like 12 months in the future, and they're all like going like this. I'm like, just you wait. You know, when people have said different comments about different characters, like, there's not enough females in the game. It's like, just you wait.
Yeah, we
There's
got that
plenty
sorted, don't
more
we?
in the pipeline. Don't you worry, my friends. We've got everyone is covered. It's all good.
Yeah. We should probably wrap up,
Yeah,
Brad. We've
yeah.
been going a while. Let's get Ygor the golden question, I guess.
Yeah, Igor, the
God.
last question we always do when someone's first joining the channel here is we give them an opportunity to say what's kind of like your favorite hero, myth, legend that you would like to see in Godforge, or if it's somebody who's already in the game, that would work too. Do you have a favorite one?
Yes, it's kind of a joke, but I say that this week, and I will say it again. I think this game needs a Friends collab because I would love to play as like Phoebe or especially Rod, and his attacks would be like dinosaurs. That would be super fun. Or maybe Seinfeld, and then there is Jerry Seinfeld with a microphone swinging and throwing at people. That is my dream.
Nice.
Great,
Well, maybe-
Simon. Well, we can make those happen. I mean, what would that cost? $200 million? Something
Yeah,
like that?
that's no worries. Yeah, maybe that one
Let's
will
go get
be
some
in,
investment, Simon. Go on. Go,
maybe
go
that
do
will
your
be in
parties.
2030. Yeah, 2030
Right.
will
Yeah,
make that work.
perfect.
You and Sham go off to these parties and you come back with lots of stories and tales. So it's fine. It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
problem, right?
I thought Ygor was going to say Brazilian Archer, to be fair, but
Yeah. Well,
No,
hey
that
guys.
is
Yeah.
the first one I want to remove from the game, right?
Yeah, Musashi. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks, Simon, Paul, and Igor. Thanks for popping on over to the channel. And we will link everything you need down below. If you're looking to check out future alphas and keep up with everything that's going on, give feedback in the Discord, all that good stuff, we'll have it for you down below. And otherwise, we will see you soon in the next Fateless podcast episode. Cheers.